It's 3 in the afternoon, and your wall just started its shift. You can't see it. You can't hear it. But right now, while you're reading this, the west wall of your house is pulling in thermal energy from direct sun exposure, storing it, molecule by molecule, inside the mass of its structure. And it will not stop until 3 in the morning. For 12 hours, your wall has a private life you've never witnessed. Today, the wall is the narrator. Before we talk about what to do, let's understand what the wall actually is. Not a barrier, not a static separator between inside and outside. A wall, any wall with real mass behind it, concrete, brick, block, dense wood framing with thick sheathing, behaves more like a sponge than a shield. It absorbs, it stores, it releases. And the release does not happen on your schedule. It happens on physics' schedule. The relationship between when heat enters the wall from the outside and when that same heat arrives on the inside surface is called thermal lag. Think of it like this. You press your hand against a thick cast iron skillet sitting on a cold stove. Room temperature. Nothing happens. Now the burner goes on. You step away. 3 minutes later, you touch the outside of the skillet again, and it's warm. But the inside surface of the skillet, the side facing the food, is not yet hot. Give it 4 more minutes. Now the inside is where the heat is. Your wall does exactly the same thing. Only the skillet takes minutes. The wall takes hours. There are 4 distinct phases in the 12-hour cycle. Each one has a name. Each one has a different effect on your interior. Understanding them changes the way you use your house. Phase 1 begins at 3 p.m. This is the absorption window. The west wall is receiving the most direct solar radiation of the entire day. The sun angle in the afternoon hits the west face squarely. No grazing angle, full impact. The outer surface of the wall heats up rapidly. At 3 p.m., that surface might read 120, 130, even 140 degrees Fahrenheit on a clear summer day. That's 49 to 60 degrees Celsius, while the interior surface of the same wall is still at room temperature. The gradient between outside and inside is at its steepest. This is the moment most people make their first mistake. They feel the house getting warmer inside at 3 p.m., and they assume the wall is letting heat through. It is not. Not yet. What they're feeling at 3 p.m. is the radiant heat coming through windows, through gaps, through convection around seals. The wall is still absorbing, still buffering, still holding. Phase 1 is the wall working for you. It is capturing energy that would otherwise hit you directly. Phase 2 begins around 6 p.m. This is the migration window. The sun is setting or already gone. The outside surface of the wall starts to cool. But the heat that has been stored in the depth of the material has nowhere to go but inward. The outer surface is no longer receiving input. The stored energy starts moving toward the cooler side, which is now the inside. Picture a slow, invisible tide, moving through brick, through block, through framing, in the direction of the cooler side. At 6 p.m., you might step outside after dinner, feel the temperature dropping, and come back inside expecting relief. But the inside wall surface temperature is climbing, slowly, steadily. The wall is beginning to exhale everything it collected since 3 o'clock. Phase 2 is where most people open their windows. Outside air is now cooler than inside air in many temperate climates. Opening makes sense. But if you have significant west-facing mass, and you open the windows before the wall completes its migration, you bring in cooler air that the wall then warms and pushes right back into your space. The instinct is right. The timing is off by about 2 hours. Phase 3. This is what we're calling the midnight problem. It runs from roughly 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. The wall's interior surface is at its peak emission temperature. All the energy collected between 3 and 6 p.m. has now fully migrated inward and is radiating off the inside surface of that wall into your living space. At 11 p.m., your west wall might be warmer than the air in the room. Think about what that means. You've closed the windows because outside air feels cooler than inside air. But now the wall is actively heating the interior from the inside. You can crack windows at midnight, bring in 65-degree air. That's 18 Celsius. And the room temperature will not drop because the wall is still pushing heat back in. This is the third most common complaint from homeowners in temperate climates. I opened everything at night and the house still didn't cool down. They're fighting the wall. And here's the part almost nobody accounts for. The bedroom. If your bedroom is on the west side of the house, and if there's a wall with real mass between you and the outside, the surface radiating toward you during phase 3 is the wall directly beside your bed. Human thermoregulation drops during deep sleep. Your body becomes less able to respond to subtle thermal loads. The wall doesn't care. It's still emitting. Phase 4 begins around 1 a.m. This is the decay window. The wall has released most of its stored energy. The interior surface temperature starts falling. It is tracking back toward equilibrium with the room and eventually with the cooler night air outside. By 3 a.m., in most residential construction, the wall is back to thermal neutral. The cycle resets. And in 8 hours, at 3 p.m. again tomorrow, it begins again. Now, 1 tool. 1 night. 4 readings. This is all it takes to map your own wall cycle. An infrared thermometer. The kind that costs $12 to $15 at any hardware store. The kind that looks like a little gun and reads surface temperatures by pointing at a surface, is your instrument. At 3 p.m., point it at the interior surface of your west wall. Write down the number. At 7 p.m., same wall, same spot. Write it down. At 11 p.m., same wall, same spot. At 3 a.m., same wall, same spot. You will see the arc. You will see exactly when your wall peaks. You will see whether your home follows the standard 12-hour cycle, or whether you have a thinner wall that peaks earlier, or a thicker mass that peaks later toward 2 a.m. Once you know your wall's timing, you stop reacting. You start predicting. Now let's talk about 3 decisions that have a direct relationship to the wall's cycle. The first is the position of your bed. If the head or the side of your bed is within 18 inches of the west wall, you are sleeping through phase 3 with a warm radiating surface at close range. The radiant effect decreases sharply with distance. At 18 inches, the radiation load is significant. At 3 feet, it drops to roughly a quarter of what it was. Moving your bed 3 feet from the west wall, without any renovation, without any new material, without any product, changes the thermal experience of sleeping by more than most ventilation upgrades do. This is the detail that doesn't appear in any product specification. It's not sold at the hardware store. It's just geometry. The second decision is where you place your AC return or your window fan intake in relation to wall phase. Most people point their window fan to draw air from the coolest direction outside. Fine. But if the AC return or the fan intake is positioned low on a west wall, it is pulling air across the warmest indoor surface during phase 3. The equipment is working. It's just being fed by the wrong input. Air that passes across a warm surface before entering the return is not the same as air drawn from the interior at ceiling level, away from the west wall. Moving the intake, or timing its use to avoid phase 3, changes the efficiency of the same equipment without touching the equipment. Before you add force, read the flow. The third decision is window timing. Most temperate climates have a natural crossover point in the evening where outside air temperature drops below inside air temperature the feestewisten that face. Ert the priesten. In reliable bouwmelische karp. That crossover happens between 7 and 9 p.m. in summer. The instinct is to open windows the moment outside air feels cool. With fished with 50 at party. But if you open before phase 3 peaks, you are ventilating the wall's emission into the house along with the incoming cool air. The optimal window opening strategy for a west-facing room with mass walls is this. Open after the west wall peaks. Usually 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. is the ideal flush window in a typical residential structure. You're letting cool night air hit a wall that has already given up its load and is ready to absorb again. The wall goes into phase 1 of the next cycle, already cooled. That means it starts absorbing tomorrow's heat from a lower baseline temperature. Over a week, the cumulative difference is measurable. Over a summer season, it changes how the house feels at 4 p.m. every single day. Now, one more piece. Because everything we've described about summer applies in reverse to winter. The same west wall that works against you between 10 p.m. and 1 a.m. in July works for you in January. In winter, the sun angle is low. Afternoon sun still hits the west face, lower in the sky, but present. The wall absorbs through the afternoon, reaches its internal peak around 11 p.m., and radiates warmth into your interior while you are sleeping. The same cycle, the same physics, the same wall. In summer, that peak emission at midnight is the midnight problem. In winter, that same peak emission is passive overnight heating. The wall was never your enemy. It was working the whole time. You just didn't know what shift it was on. There are two types of homeowners after watching this. The first type walks away with an intellectual nod. The second type picks up an infrared thermometer, sets a 3-alarm reminder in their phone for tonight. 7 p.m., 11 p.m., 3 a.m., and maps their own wall. By tomorrow morning, they know something about their house that no inspection ever told them. They know when the wall rests. They know when it works. And they know, down to the hour, when to work with it. The fix was always there. You just couldn't see it.